Welcome to Session 7 in Understanding Organisations. Session 7 is about organisational planning. At the end of the session, you'll be able to identify the importance of organisational planning, describe the processes involved in organisational planning. Why is it important for organisations to plan? Insufficient planning is cited as one of the key reasons for business failure. We also need to plan to ensure there's a clear direction of travel and measurable objectives to ensure we can evaluate success. Planning is also needed to coordinate and communicate potential investors and funders to ensure the organisation's way forward. It's an essential activity and should be based on a thorough analysis of influences and an examination of stakeholders vital for the organisation. Through this planning process, clarity of direction is reached, and then it's expressed in a formal statement of intent through objectives, priorities for the future, and an action plan. An effective organisational plan can vary from 1 page to 50 pages. The most important factor is its useful and well-used document. Key areas for development will arise from all organisational planning. After examining the findings of analysis and market research, organisations can start to agree and prioritise their key objectives for development. This can be achieved through grouping the key issues under relevant headings such as products and services, marketing, finance and people. From these, priority area objectives are then developed. Objectives. The next step is to consider the key areas for development in depth, so that from these objectives or performance targets can be established. Objectives need to be written clearly and should be checked against the acronym SMART. Specific, what is exactly to be achieved? Measurable, contains data to measure result. Achievable, have you sufficient resources to complete it? And realistic, how sensible is it at this time? Time, has a deadline been developed when you are expected it to be achieved? Recently, some people have added ER, making it smarter. Evaluated and reviewed is what the E and the R stand for. Here's some examples of objectives from a fictitious emergency rescue organisation. 5 new volunteers, rescue teams to be established by 2012. Review and develop the volunteer induction and ongoing training programmes to reflect new legislative requirements by the end of 2012. Increase corporate fundraising income by 15% by 2015 and demonstrate the ability to field a nuclear response team within 30 minutes following a terrorist incident. Demonstrate the ability of an international airport fire brigade to respond to the farthest portion of the runway within 3 minutes of an alarm. Do you see from these objectives, they're clearly measurable. We can see if we have achieved these objectives, by what amount and by what date. Once objectives have been set, they can be prioritised into short, medium and long term. Then targets and activities for the year can be written in an action plan. It is important that the objectives are prioritised, as these are preferable to a long list that will not be achieved in the many years. Organisational objectives. There are many different styles of writing objectives. There's no set way of writing objectives. The most important thing is that they're SMART and the organisation has a clear direction and targets from which they can evaluate their progress. There are different styles of expressing objectives. Some organisations have general corporate objectives for the whole team or the whole organisation, with key performance indicators to attach to each of these objectives. Performance indicators again offer the measurable context of whether we have achieved the objectives. Other organisations, if they're large, have department and team objectives. An example of a corporate objective and performance indicator from an ambulance service trust could be: the corporate objective is deliver and improve upon national and local quality indicators. The key performance indicator is 100% of stroke patients are conveyed to a specialist centre. If you go to the South West Ambulance Service Trust, their detailed business plan is on their website, and here you can see a real key business plan with organisational objectives. An organisational plan should include much information, including information about finance, planning, budgets, cash flow, fundraising if appropriate, if in the voluntary sector, market and competitor information, marketing and sales plans, growth strategy, people management plans, and a risk management plan. This information is often required by banks, investors when applying for funding. Whether this information is contained in a business plan or not, this is key information that helps the success of an organisation. Moving back to our example of the community cafe, an extract from the community cafe plan might look at the purpose being good food that does not cost the earth, and the aims being develop an awareness of healthy eating and cheap meals in a pleasant social environment, offer people opportunities to train and learn, use profits to support community projects, use fair trade, organic and local produce, create more social interaction within communities. Moving on to the next slide, the example objectives could include increase the number of volunteers by 20% by June 2012, all fresh food to be locally sourced by 2012, research and develop a plan of action for the delivery of accreditation for the catering and ICT training courses by 2011. Recruit volunteers who are willing to develop the community garden by 2011. If you look at the last two objectives, these are longer term objectives that could take 3 or 4 years to complete, but if you look, these objectives contribute to the longer term. Sample plans can be sourced through the internet using the internet addresses below, or a search on the internet produces organisations' business plans and examples that can be viewed. Putting a business plan or organisation plan into action. Any organisation plan needs to be implemented, and organisations often develop action plans to enable them to be like the timetable of events. Large organisations break their plan into departmental and section plans. This is an example of a template for an action plan. In the column that says targets, this is where the business target or the business objective, organisational objective, would be added, and the next headings show what needs to be done, what resources and cash is required to fulfil it, what are the success factors, how will we know it be done, and most important, who's the key person responsible to make it happen, and lastly, what's the time frame, when's the deadline that this can be done. Moving back to our community cafe, please see 2 examples below. From the organisational objectives to increase volunteers, The action would be campaign with communities, customers and the community. The resources that might need to do it is the website, maybe posters and local media for a campaign to gain more customers and volunteers. Success factor would be 20% more volunteers, and the person responsible is the volunteer coordinator. A realistic amount of time for this objectives is 2012. However, one would hope that this could be achieved within 6 to 12 months. The second objective of sourcing local food would include locate and contact suppliers, use seasonal food. Resources could be the internet and local media to source those foods, and the person who would be responsible would be the shop manager with volunteers. Again, a slightly longer term project, as this might not be achievable in the short term. There are plenty of examples of organisation plans on the web. You'd be well advised to access them. Does your organisation have an organisational plan? If so, are you able to access it? What does it include? Look at your organisation's plan using the criteria laid out in the session.